Some things we just take for granted. Day turns to night, spring follows winter, ostensibly, and every 4 years the presidential hopefuls descend upon New Hampshire. Today it was Marco Rubio's turn. The Republican senator from Florida was at Saint Anselm College in Manchester for the traditional politics and eggs breakfast. After some glad handing, Rubio told guests what he thinks of President Obama's foreign policy.
A nation that is not secure cannot be prosperous. And there is no one that can argue that we are safer or more respected today than we were 5 years ago. A simple, quick tour around the world points that out.
Among those at this morning's event was WGBH News senior editor Peter Kadzis. He's also a contributor to our political podcast, The Scrum. Peter, welcome.
Great to be here, Adam.
So
much warmer than New Hampshire.
Yeah, it was. How cold was it up there?
Very cold, 17.
17 below, no wind chill. All right. You are something of a New Hampshire primary connoisseur, I think it's fair to say. How does this appearance at the Politics and Eggs breakfast at St. Anselm fit into the constellation of the primary run-up?
Well, Rubio right now is someone who people would say is a dark horse, a long shot. I think what New Hampshire is about is where the people come from behind. And if today was any indication, Senator Rubio put in an incredibly strong performance. I mean, if you closed your eyes, at times you would have thought a Democrat was speaking. They say, why does that work for a Republican? Well, because New Hampshire's a purple state. I mean, it goes Democrat, it goes Republican.
All right, so give me an example of something he said that sounded Democratish to you.
Well, you know what? We have some great film. Let's take a look at the following clip. Close your eyes and you tell me what party this man
This is the one dealing with the American dream, right? And what the American dream means. Okay.
My parents never made a lot of money, and they never made it big. But they fully lived the American dream. Because the American dream has nothing to do with how much money you make. And it has nothing to do with how many things you own. The American dream is about living the kind of life you want and achieving happiness as you define it.
Now, doesn't that sound like a man who wants to be the Republican for the 47%?
It does, although at the same time, it sounded to me like maybe a kind of an artful way to not get into the whole income inequality debate as it's traditionally framed by the left. You know, it's a way of eliding that issue as well as acknowledging it.
Oh, I think shrewd observation. There's also a sort of libertarian bent to it. There's something almost quasi-religious, you know, sort of Yankee. It's not what you own, it's
an
who you are.
existentialist thing, not an economic thing. Yeah.
But I got to tell you, the audience was riveted on him. He had them for the full 20-25 minutes.
And that wasn't the only example of him sounding a little more, perhaps, liberal than you might have expected, right?
Or blue collar. I mean, for example, the way he talks about education, we should have another clip that gives an example of his sort of unique view of education.
All right, let's take a look.
We cannot afford to continue to graduate people with four-year degrees that do not lead to jobs, but has saddled them with tens of thousands of dollars in student loan debt. I know about student loan debt. I owed over $100,000 myself. And I was only able to pay him off a couple years ago with the proceeds of my book, An American Son, now available on paperback.
That's very good.
He went on to speak at some length about education. And what made his appearance so strong is he never used policy words like vocational education, but it was very clear he talked about kids graduating from high school with real jobs as airplane mechanics or car mechanics. There's a strong blue-collar bent to New Hampshire, and he really spoke to that, while at the same time saying, listen, there's nothing wrong with four-year liberal arts education.
We have seen recently former GOP presidential hopeful Rudy Giuliani say that he's not sure if President Obama loves America, and possible future GOP presidential candidate Scott Walker say he's not sure if President Obama is really a Christian. I'm wondering if you saw anything analogous to that come from Rubio today, anything for the sort of conservative base of the GOP?
Nothing whatsoever. He gave a conservative speech, but he he was totally free from any of the Obama obsession or Obama hatred. It was almost as if, he had his own message and he was going to talk about it. Let's take a look at one final clip where he talks about values and American values.
Hard work, discipline, self-control, respect for others. I don't care how many diplomas you have on the wall. If you don't have those values, you cannot succeed now or ever. The problem is no one's born with these values. These values have to be taught, and these values have to be reinforced, which is why we see what a devastating impact the breakdown of families is having on our economy and on our society.
That's the way he frames his tax policy, in terms of families. So he does avoid this whole inequality business. He doesn't avoid it, he reframes it. Very skillful.
I got to say, the stuff you've picked out strikes me as really artful. The reference to self-control, and also just the broader notion that values need to be inculcated in people, that you can't just let it happen, that we need to work at this. Sort of a conservative message that is more subtle than some of what we've seen.
Yeah, it's tailored to New Hampshire.
So Rubio's biggest problem, if he runs for president, might be his fellow Floridian Jeb Bush, who one of us at some point will be going up regularly to New Hampshire to catch these guys in action. So we may be covering Bush in the near future. Were there any direct or indirect jabs at Jeb Bush today?
Nope. He was very much his own man. It's as if he was saying, I am Marco Rubio. I'm here to tell you my ideas. No one else existed. He was simple, he was plain spoken, he was his own man.
Impressive. All right, Peter Kadzis, thanks.